So if you have your book, turn to the page that says labeling theory. I don't know what page you have. Turn to the page that says labeling theory. What page do we have? 168. So, we talk about how the meaning of deviance and crime is socially constructed. And the meaning of deviance and crime can change over time and context. So, labeling theory is not new. Maybe it happened during Salem hundreds of years ago. Those women were quote-unquote labeled as deviant and as witches. To these days, we can never be 100% sure whether they are true witches or not, whether they actually practice witchcraft or not. So, sometimes we deem a certain act, a person, as deviant, and we attach labels to those people, like what you saw on page 168. Those are the labels we attach to others. And let me go off a tangent. How do class clowns come about? Who are usually the class clowns? The funny people. Do you think the labeling theory applies to the class clown? Do you think the labeling theory applies to the class clown? Folks? Yes? Sorry? So the clown labels himself or herself? So the class clown is not labeled by somebody else?
Well, I mean, just call the class clown would be later on.
Yeah, by the peers?
Yeah.
Yeah, by the teachers. So, have you had any classmates, ex-classmates, who self-identify as class clowns? They love it so much. They love to be funny. They love to humor others. And they self-identify as class clown. They bestow themselves the title. Did that ever happen to you when you were in school? Or class clowns were always labeled by others, by peers, by classmates, by teachers, because they are funny? I don't know. I did not go to high school here. So would you consider class clowns deviant or they are normal? It's normal for somebody to entertain us. We have class clowns in every school, every culture, every country. It's not only a phenomenon in America. So, would you label class clowns as funny? As deviant?
Well, I think it can be, depending on the type of funny, that the way that the person is trying to be funny, because sometimes to be funny, you might think breaking one of the class rules or looking one of the school rules to make a funny joke. So might be a deviant by breaking the rule, but it's different by breaking it. For example, throwing papers at a teacher.
Yeah, throwing a paper, throwing trash at classmates or teachers. Maybe we would consider those behaviors deviant. It's against the norm. The norm would be to be respectful to each other in the classroom. So, if calling teachers or students' name, sometimes it can also be considered deviant, even though it's funny. So it depends on what the class clowns do. Sometimes certain things they do may consider deviant. And Sometimes people react to the labels bestowed upon them. Page 168. They react either in a negative or in a positive manner. Why do people join gangs in school? Why do people join gangs? There are gangs in every culture, every country. There were gangs in my middle school, my high school. Maybe not elementary school. We were too young back then. There are gangs in every country. Why do students join gangs? There are so many clubs and organizations. Why don't students be involved in those? Why some students prefer to join gangs? What's the reason? Do you know?
To feel belong to a group.
Yeah, to feel the sense of belongingness. So would you consider gangs deviant? Members of a gang?
Yes.
What about the other people? Would you consider members of a gang deviant? Any other thoughts? Are gang members deviant? Okay. Would you say yes or would you say no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So, maybe they don't feel they belong in those clubs and organizations. We all know that. You think I've not been young before? Sometimes all these clubs and organizations or even sports teams maybe are dominated, quote unquote dominated by people of a certain clique. Maybe certain students, they don't feel they belong. They form their own gangs, not recognized by the school. It happens in every culture, every country. So, sometimes because of that, they are being marginalized, they don't feel they belong. And they are being labeled as what? Gang members. It has a negative connotation. And one way students react to those labels, not only students and adults the same, is through the techniques of neutralization. They try to deny their responsibility. It's self-explanatory on page 168. Yeah, I'm not responsible. I'm just going with the flow. I'm not responsible. I come from a broken home. Denial of injury. I don't know what page you have right now. What I did wasn't wrong. No one got hurt. Maybe this happens in cheating and maybe plagiarism. No one got hurt. I just took a shortcut. And your book also gives examples like vandalism. Yeah, sometimes you can do that without hurting other people, vandalism. Or being mischievous. Or gang fights. I don't know about the schools in US, but schools in Malaysia, when I was in school, middle school, high school back then, in the 80s, early 90s, there were several gang fights. There were two major gangs in my middle school, and they don't get along. They did not get along. So, when I was a student, we were somehow, somewhat, quote unquote, informed through unofficial ways, maybe through the grapevine, that these two gangs are going to have a fight on that particular day, that particular time. So we would not come to school during that time. Usually they fight or they fought before class time. Usually it's before class time. It's not even during the recess or after school. After school is over. But apparently, we got the news through the grapevine. And when these two gangs were fighting, they left us alone if we were not part of them. They only looked for their own people and they fought. And Malaysia had a different gun control law. There were hardly any guns on campus or in high school, middle school. So they fought with maybe some iron stick or some wooden stick. They chase one another from classroom to classroom. Teachers leave them alone. Even teachers knew. Teachers got the news through the grapevine too. Teachers knew. Teachers left them alone. Other students who were not part of the gang left them alone. They will leave us alone. They will only go after their own people. It has always been that case until the day I graduated. And usually police came after the fight. They will interview school administrators. Police did not do anything. So this is how gangs fought in Malaysian high school. So I don't know how gangs fought in your American high school. Did you experience any gang fightings when you were in high school, middle school? Wow, Americans are good people, I see. So this will be another example of denial of injury. The scenario in my country, we only went after our own people. I mean, people of another gang, not our own people. We did not hurt any other students or teachers or administrators. Maybe the same can be said for the recent data breach and identity theft, right? Denial of injury. No one got hurt physically, maybe mentally. Yeah, economy was bad. We were just taking a shortcut. We want a way to survive. Maybe those criminals try to rationalize it that way. We did not hurt anybody. We did not injure anybody. We just mess with people's computers system. People who engage in data breach and identity theft, they are considered deviants too. And they are considered criminals. Crime is a subset of deviant. I mentioned that last week, remember? And denial of victim. Oh, some regard themselves as the modern day Robin Hood. And yeah, this happens in the America. You trash a teacher's car. It happens in Asian countries too. When students don't like that they are being punished, they think that it's unjust, unfair. They will puncture the teacher's tire. They will scratch the teacher's car. They will do all kinds of funny things. And they will say, oh, the victim deserves it. And condemnation of the condemners. They say, who are you to judge me? You created the rules, but I don't buy it. Condemnation of the condemners. Oh, they are good because they are the teacher's pet. They are good because they are the supervisor's pet. Sometimes these things are projected to our adult life. Appeal to higher loyalties. Maybe they feel more of a sense of belongingness joining gangs, especially boys, than maybe joining the clubs and organizations. More legit clubs and organizations in school. And they say that I had to protect my gang members, my junior gang members. That is why I had to fight. Sometimes guys rationalize that. So all these techniques of neutralization, as you can see, all 5 of them, I think 5 of them, or 6 of them, 5 of them, applies to bullying or cyberbullying too. Sometimes people deny their responsibility, or they deny injury. Yeah, that person was mean to me too. Denial of injury. Denial of victim. And condemnation of the condemners. Oh, they deserve it to be bullied or cyberbullied because they are the teacher's pet. And appeal to higher loyalties. I want to fit into the group, so I make maybe certain usually guys, do certain stunts if they want to be a part of our gang, our group, the guys group. It happens all the time. But it's a form of bullying, we all know that. So as you can see, labels can be powerful. Sometimes when the person is labeled as a class clown, wow, the person loves it so much and becomes a famous comedian. Oh, labels can be powerful. But if a student is labeled in a certain way by teachers, not as a class clown, that's a more positive connotations. If a student is labeled in a more negative way, lazy, not trying hard enough, cheater, oh, that's worse. Then the students may increasingly more inclined to act out the labels. And yeah, he or she may do something even worse as time progresses, as that student progresses from being an adolescent to adult. So when I was at Delta State, I was on the Criminal Justice Search Committee, and one candidate, we hired him. When he came for interview, he did a very good, excellent teaching demo. He has a PhD in criminal justice from U of Miami. And in his teaching demo, he said that it can be very hard or very challenging for those ex-cons to change. He was a probation officer. He was in the military, then probation officer, before he decides to come to academia. He's in his 50s. So he has a third career. Who cares in this society? But he is very experienced. He had tons of practical experience. He said, it's easy for you and I to say, maybe we don't have any criminal record. Oh, if you have certain rehab programs or other interventions, these ex-cons is going to change their behavior. They will not resort to crime again. But he said, it can be very challenging. Sometimes all these ex-cons, when they got out of prison, they feel that society may not give them a second chance. And they feel that, that's what he says, verbatim, in his teaching demo. These ex-cons feel that society, anybody in society, prospective employers, colleagues, members of churches, religious institutions, just you name it, anybody in society, have power over them. It seems that they are being scrutinized or watched closely, even if they are trying to change. Nobody really wants to give them a second chance, and they have to survive, they have to live. So they resort to crime again. This is how, and this is why recidivism rates are so high. People went back to crime and they went back to prison. So, the functionalist perspective. We have three major theories in sociology, right? Be sure you know that for your midterm. So go to the page that says the functionalist perspective. I don't know what you have. Any volunteers?
172.
Go to 172. So, functionalist comes from the word what? Function. So, proponents of this perspective says that crime and deviance serve as a function to society, any society. Yes.
Can you just tell me the three theories, just so I can like write them down together?
Functionalist perspective, symbolic interactionism, where I show you the currency through two people's interaction. They buy and sell with that piece of paper. We build up the economic system. And the conflict perspective that focuses on contesting of resources or contesting of ideas in society. Now, if you turn on your TV, you turn on the internet, the social media, the YouTube, we see people fight all the time. Am I right? The globe is not safe, I'm sorry. The world is not safe. People fight because of resources, maybe oil, other natural resources. They want to dominate those. But sometimes people or countries, leaders of a country, politicians, they also go to war with other countries because they contest ideas with the leaders of another country. Do you buy that? They want leaders of the general population of that country to see the world the way they see the world. Am I right? Does Americans' presence in Iraq fits into that description? People fight, not only for natural resources, but people also contest ideas. Therefore, they go to war with one another. And it's not my intention to offend anybody in this class for bringing up that scenario. And we see that all the time. When this was before we were born in the 70s, the mid-70s, we know North Vietnam sent troops to South Vietnam. They united the whole country. This fits into the description too. Countries went to war because they want leaders in another country to see the world the way they see the world. Not North Vietnamese leaders. Maybe they wanted South Vietnamese leaders to see the world the way they see the world. Maybe part of the reason why two Vietnams are united to these days. Who knows? And the same thing can be said between North and South Korea, even though they are still two countries. So any questions about the three theories, you have to know it. Table 1.1. I don't know what page you have. A matching question will come from that table. Go study that table, go memorize that table, go sleep on the table. Because your exam is closed book. So, let's get back on track. According to the functionalist perspective, deviance and crime serve a function to society. It clarifies the moral boundaries and it affirms the norms. When somebody does something somewhat different from what people normally do in society, and something happened to them, so other people who did not deviate from the norms, it gave them a sense of moral boundaries, and the norms are affirmed for people in that society. Oh, this is what happened for people who deviate from normal societal expectations. It solidifies the norm. And deviance encourages social unity. When somebody is punished, maybe the other members of the society who did not commit the crime or the deviant act, they will say, see, you cannot get away with that. Maybe by saying that it fosters social cohesion and unity. It promotes social change. All the positive deviance we talk about on Friday. Sometimes deviance may not need to be what negative or stigmatizing. Deviance can also be positive. When somebody proposed the sterilization techniques, he encountered all kinds of opposition. He was considered deviant. But now, we accept sterilization. The medical committee accept sterilization as part of their practice. They say it's a good thing now. It's a norm. And do you know how tattoos came about? Tattoos. Maybe 100 years ago, maybe decades ago, Not everybody have tattoos, do you know that? Tattoos are or were limited to certain segments of the population, am I right? Who? Do you know anything about tattoos, how it came about? I heard tattoos were limited to the sailors back then, hundreds of years ago, decades ago. It was not commonly seen among the general public in most countries. And maybe some brave person, guy or girl, who cares, say that, why don't I get a tattoo to remember a special event, to remember someone special to me, to motivate me? Why don't I go get a tattoo for that? And when more and more people do that, they get tattoos like that, not tattoos with obscene stuff. People may be more accepting of tattoos. They say, it's not a bad thing. Yeah, my colleague have a very meaningful tattoos on his or her arm to remember his or her family members, something special to him or her. People may get the mindset, the notion, tattoos are not all bad. It changed the norm. So deviance can be a norm changer. People who initially did that, they went to get tattoos to remember a phenomenon, a person. They may initially be considered deviants, but when more and more people do the same thing, tattoos increasingly becomes a norm in what? Many societies. So this is how the functionalist perspective view deviance. It serves a function in society, for the better or for the worse. Depends on what deviant acts are involved. So go to the page that says street crime. I don't know what page you have. It's a small subheading. 175. So we talk about the meaning of street crimes on Friday. Is any crime committed on the street? Robbing, mugging, burglary. The classic examples. And we also have white collar crimes. And some people call white collar crimes corporate crimes. So we can think of street crimes something like maybe blue collar crime. I don't know. Who is the criminal justice major here? Or you're all at the job fair? Am I right, Lawrence? Can we equate street crimes with blue collar crime? I don't know enough of criminal justice. It's not my area. I'm trained as a demographer. What do I know? You tell me. I know several of you are criminal justice majors. Maybe you're at the job fair, who knows? Because I got an email from your chair, Julie Campbell, to excuse some of you from class today. So, one question for you. Are there any overlaps between street crimes and white collar crimes? Can one commit both types of crime or just one type? You either commit white collar crime or you commit street crimes, or you can do both. I don't know. I'm open that to discussion. Can one commit two types of crime at different time points? Not at the same time. I don't know, I'm asking you. Can you commit street crimes and white collar crimes? Why yes, Joseph?
Well, I don't really have an explanation, but I think yes.
You think yes? Okay. Are you thinking about the mafia or the gang leaders?
Probably the white collar crime.
Yeah, they are the brainiacs. They plan, they strategize, and they let people below them to do the dirty work. So maybe that's considered white collar crime when you strategize. Yeah.
It's like the same. I remember when I took criminal justice class,
Mhm.
we talk about the way the terrorists organize. They have different
Mhm.
branches. They have the part of people that are the thinkers. They just
Mhm.
think, and some other people they invest the money. And
Mhm.
they have other group that go ahead and do the job. For example, someone that put a bomb, so that's that person can be considered the lowest rank.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some other people that can do the technology behind making the bomb, making the vest, and then there are other people that invest
Mm-hmm.
in money to make the bomb. So those are the people who invest are thinking they probably do the white collar crime, and the one that go out in the street, explode the bomb,
Mhm.
and these are street criminals.
Because one of my colleague, a long time ago, he says that people who commit blue-collar crimes or street crimes cannot commit white-collar crimes because they do not have the means to do it. Maybe they don't have the educational skills, other cognitive skills to plan or to strategize. So, do you trust your government? Do you trust your government? Yes.
We have no options.
Oh, wow. You have more faith than me. You trust your government, I don't.
It's not that we trust it, but it's that we have no choice.
Okay, you have no choice. Yeah. You need somebody, you need an entity to maintain order and stability. You have no choice. So, other folks, do y'all trust your government, your American government? Yes, no? So do you trust Donald Trump that he can make your economy better? He can bring the jobs back. Do you trust what he says? You are shaking your head. And do you believe in your election results? Americans especially. Do you believe in your election results from last year? About a year ago. Yes, Bailey, you are nodding your head. Yes.
Yeah, I think we can rely on the results because there's so many processes that are put in place to ensure that
But
nothing
it's
is.
manipulated.
Okay. We Malaysians, now I cannot find the website for some reason. Did not trust our 2013 election results. You had more faith than us. Good for you.
I think either way, even if we don't believe it, or you don't think it happened, it's still, no matter, the results are still, final after it's,
Mhm.
publicized. So no matter if you agree with it or not, you're gonna have to, just go with society because,
The electoral college is really sharp.
Okay, I found it. This is what happened. Right after my country's 2013 election, we turned our Facebook profile to something black or something dark, something gloomy, to symbolize the demise of democracy in our country. Very few of us believe in the results of our election 4 years ago. We believe that results were fabricated. The ruling party, maybe they changed something in when they were counting the ballots. Power outages happens in 5 or 6 places in Malaysia when ballots were being counted. After they were done counting ballots, the ruling party announced that they won We, to these days, do not trust our government. We had no choice. They control the police, they control the military. I voted through my embassy in New York. It didn't matter. Because nowadays, I will end with this story. My 2 cents about what happened. We have all kinds of gadgets, right? iPad, iPhones, smartphones. You can take pictures. So people took tons of pictures during the election. People going to vote when ballots were counted. And some people, I don't know how, they capture pictures of military trucks with iron boxes, iron cases, big iron cases at the ballot place. They fought with the civilians to get through. And after that, there were power outages in 5 or 6 places, cities in Malaysia. Those ballot stations, power outages. After that, they announced that they won. And sometimes it's the same like what you have here. All these representatives, party representatives, they got to stay in the room or in the big hall when ballots were counted. Maybe it's the same. So I was on Facebook all night. Election night, election day. It was night for me in the US. And maybe some of these representatives, they texted, our party is winning. Our party was getting a head start. Something like that. When they sat beside those people who counted the ballots. And you know Facebook. We have friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. So eventually I saw that on my page, on my wall. And all of a sudden, I saw power outages in this place, in that place, in that place. And then it's midnight, I went to bed. The next morning, when I logged on Facebook again, I saw that people turned their profiles this way. They were angry, they were furious, not angry. They say something was fishy when ballots were counted. I believe so. And I believe that it happens in all elections. Even when I was a kid in the 80s. As far as I could remember. Maybe nowadays, you have social media, you have your gadget, you can take pictures. You can post something on social media to prove your point. In those days, maybe, who knows, our politicians, they did something. We were suspicious of that, but we could not prove it. So we will stop from here and we will pick up from here. See you Wednesday.
Could you fill out this grade check for me for my class?
And if you haven't signed in, come up here. Yeah, it's already, you wrote it down.
Oh, that's my self-grade. That's what I thought I had. So then you just have to confirm it. So that's what I have. Thank you.
You say that I have to stay up.
Yeah. Just see if any other people. So why did you not get the textbook for the class?
I went to try to buy it. It's 200 something.
Really?
Yeah. And I am a nursing major, and also I have a lot of bills and stuff. So I thought, you know what? I don't really need to buy it because it's gonna be only for this semester.